AWSM Radio.
That was good. Oh my gosh, that was good.
God.
What episode are we on? What episode is this of the night? So this will be the
Episode
third-
187 of AWSM Comedy Radio.
Oh, okay, good. Thanks, Tom. We just wanted to bring our previous guests up from the last two episodes. Dixie Lynn Cartwright and Tyler Greene have joined us here tonight. And I know this is a comedy podcast and all that jazz, but
is it?
Yeah, I mean, we try.
That was the intention.
But we also like to talk about real things and issues sometimes, because during the last episode that we were recording here, something was just in the atmosphere, whatever, in my life, the energy of addicts and people that suffer from addiction or abuse. So I wanted to let everyone in the audience know that if they had a friend or a loved one, or if they themselves were experiencing something to do with abuse or something to do with addiction, that they could come here and find someone in our lovely audience that would listen to them or direct them towards an avenue of help. Because I just had so many friends that have dealt with it and struggled with it in the past. Deal with your monsters. Deal with your monsters. But the reason that I wanted to ask you two back on is because...
Is it because I pulled a beer out of my purse?
I was going to say,
no.
You said addict, you pointed at me, you know.
Yeah. I'm
that wonderful.
I did not mean to
setup.
point at you and call you an addict.
It's okay.
I was letting you know
right.
what we talked about on the last episode. Why I wanted you all to come back up is because I don't know where you were born, Tyler. Where were you born?
Kalamazoo, Michigan, at Bronson Methodist Hospital.
Yeah. And
Really
Very specific.
And Dixie, you were born in Memphis?
Memphis, yeah.
Okay. So
Germantown.
both of us grew up in Tennessee. We're all gay. And
How dare you make that assumption? You don't know my life.
just wondering, like, what were some of the things that you all had to deal with growing up? If you want to share or talk about something that happened, because I had a lot of really bad experiences that kind of led me into comedy and performance, because it became sort of my therapy. And just wondering if, as fellow artists, performers, you had a similar experience, or what moved you to become performers?
I'm obviously extremely masculine. So growing up in the South, I had no problems.
Yes.
No, I have a twin brother who's a pastor.
Oh my goodness.
And so, like, we do basically the same thing. And, very religious family. I went to a Southern Baptist college in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Hey, Queen. And slept with half the dorm. Actually, last night, when I was hosting at Sidetrack, a guy that I knew was gay, who married and had 2 kids while in college.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, we went to school together in Mississippi. And I was like, cool, where's your wife? And he's like, I don't know, this is my husband. Do you want to meet my husband? And I was like, oh, cool. So you finally figured all that out. And he's like, yeah, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, well, I mean, I had a lot of dicks in my mouth at the time, so it made it really difficult to say it. But yeah, I guess just like the culture of being closeted constantly.
Absolutely.
It's not something I think a lot of people understand how, like...
Well, especially I think here in Chicago, you don't realize quite how different it is from north to south, but also just how much change has happened in the past 10 years. I wouldn't be surprised if people who are growing up now have a very different experience than even somebody growing up just 10 years ago.
Because of Facebook?
Yeah. I liked some things, and I
changed everything.
I changed everything myself because I hit that like button.
Did you heart it?
I don't know how to do that yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
do you
that
like
needs
any of that
knowledge.
shit? Do you
No.
like any of that?
No, it's too
I
much.
don't like any of
It's
that.
too
No,
much.
there's too many
So
options.
what about growing up in Kalamazoo? How
know,
did that
I don't-
shape you into the person in flannel we see today?
Thank you for letting everybody know that I'm wearing flannel.
They could tell.
Definitely hires a visual.
I don't really have a very interesting story, actually.
Great. Keep going.
Perfect.
I can make something up, though.
No. You don't have to make anything up, because
no,
one of the things that I wanted to ask you
Yeah.
is, speaking of Facebook, I saw that you had a honeymoon recently.
Yes, sir.
So you
I
have
said yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
whatever you want to say. So you're married now.
I am married.
And you were engaged where?
So there is a storytelling show at Sidetrack where
Yeah.
Miss Dixie
What a
works.
great bar.
And it is a great bar. And I told a story there about my boyfriend at the time. He had very serious spinal surgery. He had a tumor removed from his spinal cord.
Oh, goodness.
And
It was a comedy
It was
show.
a comedy, and everyone was crying, and it was very intense, and everyone's clapping. Story's over. I'm bawling, and he stands up. He's very sort of a short Chinese man, and he not very outspoken, opposite of me. Walks up on stage in this sort of the sidebar at Sidetrack, and goes on this little monologue, and I don't know where it's going, and then he says, "Tyler Greene, will you marry me?" in front of the 250 people.
What'd you say?
I almost didn't say anything. And then, of course, I stole the thunder and I said, "Oh, by the way, yes." And then everybody was like, "Ah!" And then it was like a thing.
I'm sure they were.
They were. It was amazing. But yeah, and then that story was on the Risk podcast, and it was wonderful.
I think it's
But
wonderful.
I like being married, and Costa Rica was amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have trouble in Kalamazoo. I didn't actually come out till I was in college, and I dated a girl.
Did you have to come out? Oh.
Not in college, in
Hey,
high school.
Queen. In
high school.
Yeah, I
You
know.
came out in high school, or you came out in college?
I came out in college.
To his girlfriend. No.
No, she's a very sweet woman, married with children now. But
Your
she was
children?
Like, I don't think so. I'm not going to say anything. She's sweet. Anyway, yeah, no, but I came out. I went to San Francisco and with my family and on a trip.
And you went, "That's me
and I
now."
said, "That's me," and literally came back, emailed to my best friend, and I said, "I'm bi." And then like,
Oh, I came out as bi too because
Yeah.
I thought it was easier.
Easier.
That's like the stepping stone to full on like gay bukkake.
yeah, that came 6 months later when I was
Yeah.
back in school. But yeah, and then I was gay, and now I am.
You go back to Kalamazoo a lot?
I've been back once with my best friend, his partner, and my boyfriend at the time we went.
The last time I was there was
Yeah.
the night of the shooter.
No.
A couple weeks ago.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? My boyfriend was doing theater out there at Farmers Alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. And
Podcast.
we were walking to Bell's Brewery, and we got there, and they like wouldn't let us in, and we were like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "We're on lockdown. There's a shooter." We were like, "Well, then let us in."
Jesus.
And so they did, and then we found out later that like they caught him like 2 blocks from where we were walking, 10 minutes after we had walked there. So like we were just
Wow.
kind
Oh my
of
God.
wandering around. Isn't that terrible?
It's terrible. It's
I
terrifying.
remember waking up and having that, Facebook news feed, and the top
Yeah.
is Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? What did Donald Trump do in Kalamazoo?
Right.
And then it's
And
this.
he's an Uber driver, and he picked up people between shootings.
After, at the
But
end.
to his credit, he didn't kill any of the people that he picked up
That's
because
true.
those 5 stars are very important to him.
Priorities.
He went out with a pretty good Uber rating, I have to say.
Uber or Lyft? Speaking of
Cracker
games.
Barrel, not so good.
I thought you were saying crack.
Uber, Lyft, sidecar.
Uber's evil? Did somebody just say
They're
that?
pretty
No,
much
just
the
talking about
same
tomatoes.
thing.
Oh, tomatoes. Okay, sorry.
Dixie, when did you come out? Or did you have to?
I'm still waiting. One day.
Build up that strength.
This is a safe space.
I came out, like in the South, the gayest people are seen as straight until you say it because like the Southern Baptist denial
Southern
is
Baptist denial.
intense.
The-
And so I was 19, I was like 20, and I got this terrible infection. It was awful, and I had to drop out of school. And then I transferred up to a school in Kentucky. So I started that's when I came out, and I started writing a live journal. Do y'all remember that?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah.
Right? So that's
Yeah.
where I just poured out all of my 19-year-old feelings. And I was very open, and I guess my sister, through a friend, found it and sent it around to the family, and then wrote me this long letter full of Bible verses. She was trying, bless her. And
Yeah, bless her heart.
it said, it said, "I know what you're going through because I had a drink at a party once. So I know what it's like to sin." And I was like, that's not how I sin.
Highest.
I mean,
degree
drinks
of
are
empathy.
involved. There's a lot more shame
They
after.
have to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah.
That is the worst thing that I experienced in the South. growing up with that whole religious identity instilled in me, because I was raised Southern Baptist as well, and the biggest monster that I dealt with and still sometimes deal with is having to exist in that dichotomy of here is my spiritual self, or here is this religious identity, and here's this sexual identity, two of which are very contrasting things. And I left the church and left that whole idea of religion behind me because I didn't feel that it fit. It just didn't fit.
And that's like, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't have to be
my
that
twin
way.
brother's a pastor now, and he's pretty great. Like, so he thinks that homosexuality is not God's perfect plan for me.
Okay.
So he's very open about that. But he also says, you're not in my church. It is not my job to judge you or to preach to you unless you want to be a part of my community. He's like, otherwise I'll just love you. I don't care. But he will. Like, he'll call me like Saturday nights if he's going to mention homosexuality at any point during a sermon the next day, and he'll read it to me, and he'll say, is this offensive to you? And a couple of times I did say, yeah, I think that's coming from a pretty shitty place, and he'll take it out, or he'll rethink it. He's a super... He is what the Christian church
should be.
thinks they are.
Gotcha.
But aren't. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like,
So,
go ahead, Tyler.
I just have a question. So I was just recently in the South, and I have my mother lived there for a while, and my extended family through her late husband. You know, a lot of people would say, I don't quite understand homosexuality, but you're my brother, or you're my son, or you're my cousin, and I love you. And I don't understand. I never quite was able to. I'm writing a story right now about that time, and I was never quite able to understand why they would, what that was about. Do you know what I mean? Like
The
kernel of
disconnect.
it.
Yeah, saying I don't understand homosexuality, but I love you anyway. It's like, that sucks. Like, that sucks to hear.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
I mean, on one hand, it's like, it's really honest, and it feels good. And then at the same exact time, it's like, but that doesn't make sense. Right? And
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably pervasive in I don't want to say the entire South, but I mean...
It is, and the whole blind eye as well, because, I mean, I came out to my family years ago. Gayest story in the world. I went to New York for the first time and saw Rent and walked out and was like, hey, I'm coming out. And
That's proof. That's proof right there that it will turn you gay.
And then all of my friends,
There. They have the evidence they need.
all of my friends, Logan.
That's what they were waiting on. 25 years later, they finally have their evidence.
No, seriously, everyone was just like, let's go eat. Like, they all, of course, they all
Right.
knew. They had
Yeah.
already came to that reality
Right.
on their own prior to my announcing it. Family, not the same story. I was estranged from my father for about 3 years, and lots of judgment, lots of I don't understand, lots of tears. My mother found out in Walmart, where we both worked at the time.
Yes.
And it was a lovely little confrontation on the clock, so at least I was getting paid.
Ooh, good.
Where I basically just made it very clear that this is who I am, and you will love me, or I will just walk out of your life. And
Did she say, shut up, queer, and fold those towels?
she sure did.
That end cap looks terrible. Aren't you gay people supposed to be good at that?
I love that you know what an end cap is. But so yeah, it's difficult. And I wanted to give you all an opportunity if you had any stories to vent or share, because we should be a strong community together.
I think it's one thing, too, for anyone that didn't grow up in the South as a gay person, because even growing up gay in different parts of the country is different. It's a very specific, terrible, not terrible. Yeah, it's a terrible way to grow up, really. I mean, when it comes down to it. And so I don't think a lot of people realize just the constant fear that you have. Like, and
Every
as
day.
a child,
Every day in
to
school.
be scared constantly.
Being bullied.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't bullied because of my great beauty, but but I can imagine you probably were.
Oh yeah, dear. Oh, I was bullied. I was bullied by lots of jock types, lots of like just older types. You know, seniors picking on the freshmen or whatever, and later ended up having a little bit of hot sex with those same men later in my life, like late 20s, early 30s, because it was coming from a place of fear where they didn't want to admit to themselves.
Do you honestly think they were bullying you based on your sexuality alone, or did it have anything to do with your personality? or looks?
I was a pretty ugly teenager. Like I was.
We all were.
Oh, it was terrible. No,
Anybody who was a pretty teenager died of a drug overdose in their 20s.
They made it very, very.
That's true.
They made it very evident that it was. I gotta say bye to friend. Bye, Liz. That's a friend in the
Bye,
audience.
Liz.
Bye.
There's new people in the back.
Thanks for
New
sticking
people.
Hi,
around.
new
There are
people.
new people. Hi.
I haven't
just
turned
talking
over
about
in like
issues.
20 minutes.
So many issues.
Wait, I have a question.
Go
When
for
did
it,
you
go
come
for
out
it.
again? I'm sorry.
It was 20, I believe.
Okay,
20.
and you, Dixie?
19.
Okay.
Sure. Now, I want to hear from the straight men on the panel.
Oh,
When
okay.
did you
No,
come
okay.
out as straight?
I was 12.
Did you struggle? Did you struggle with it?
My parents found pornography. And,
Yeah, they
yeah,
did.
so.
Were they
gross.
were they shocked?
No, I didn't have, of course, anything like that. But I did have. I did greatly admire an art dealer when I was like in 5th grade or something like that. My mom's best friend was an artist, and there was this flamboyant gay man with a red jacket, and red was my favorite color at the time too. At an art
That's
opening,
how we get 'em.
and he was the center of attention.
We find
and
your favorite colors.
Everybody was hanging on his every word.
We come to your school wearing that
And I was
jacket.
like, I want to be just like that when I grow up. And my mom
how
was
old
like,
were you?
oh, okay. He's gay. And I was like, what is that? And that's when I learned.
And then you went, never.
Wait, how old
And
were
I
you?
didn't really
Now
know
you
that I
hate the
wasn't
color
gay.
red.
It was like years later. I was like, that doesn't really. I kind of assumed that I would be attracted to men at some point, and then nope, didn't happen.
Do you feel attracted to me now?
Well, I don't think anybody. Yeah, nobody could
Then you're
resist
gay.
really. Then
All right, Tom.
When did I come out straight?
No. When did you come out as a
did you-
freak?
As a freak?
Yeah,
Who
No, I
sells
mean,
I
who
guess
sells
right
B.
now.
Arthur penises on
you
Craigslist?
just outed him.
What's wrong? That's not freaky selling B. Arthur penises. B. Arthur penises.
Even
on
you
Craigslist.
can't take yourself serious.
mean-
I think sexuality is very fluid.
I do
My
too.
Uber driver on the way over
Oh God.
said that taxi drivers and Uber drivers when I'm in drag are disgusting.
Yeah.
It's the best. I've seen so many taxi driver penises you would not believe. And I mean, I've
They
only
just-
asked half the time.
Okay.
Most of the time, they
I was
just
like, it just
I had
happens?
one guy. He literally like I was coming from Sidetrack and I lived in Lincoln Park at the time, so it was like a 9-minute cab ride, right? And so he's like, "You're so beautiful," and I was like, "I know." And then we get to a stop sign, and he's asking me like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" and all this stuff. So finally, I said, "You know, I'm a man, right? Like, you know what a drag queen is, right?" And he goes, "Oh." And then we sat in silence for about a block. And then he's like, "That's okay." And I was like, "Well, sure it's okay. Like, nothing's going to happen." And then we pulled into the alley next to my building, and he tapped the like fare, like where the total was, instead of saying it. And he tapped, and I was like, "What?" And he's like hitting it really hard. And I was like, what? And he's like, look. So I like leaned forward, and when I did, he had his dick out. The most offensive part was it was all pube. It was all pube. That's what I was offended by. So as soon as he came, I left.
No.
As
You
soon
should've
as he
prepared
got
better.
off.
Good
No,
for
but
you.
in the cab ride
Good
on
for
the
you.
way, it was this guy. He said I was beautiful. I said thank you, and he goes, "My wife and I are only married in Korea, and I'm very open-minded."
What?
Well, good for him. Good for him.
He still made me pay though.
Well,
I got nothing.
you got nothing to follow up with that.
Yeah. How do you?
I mean, everyone's got their story, and everyone should have a chance to voice it and say it. And yours is a lovely story.
What
and-
kind of porn did you find, Logan?
Oh,
That's what I wanted to know. Though.
are we going
we
there?
skirted.
Well, I don't need to go into details. I don't think it's that interesting. I just think it was the early days of the internet. So like,
Oh yeah.
So hentai.
I was like waiting for things to load. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it was
Oh,
that
yeah.
era of like, ooh, here's a
GeoCities.
picture. Oh, I see the first part of it. Oh, there's boobs.
There's her
Oh,
I
it's
boobs.
still
remember
going.
my first photo, my first gay photo that I saw.
Oh.
Oh, that you
Was it on the
saw?
internet?
Two twink boys in a bathtub. I remember distinctly.
Oh, yeah.
I
Is that
can
child
recall it.
pornography?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't child pornography.
Two twink boys in a bathtub. My first porn that I didn't know what masturbation was, so I just used to smash my penis against objects. I didn't know.
Yep.
So I had this toy chest that I would like lay across and I smashed my penis on the edge of it until I thought I was peeing in my pants. But the first thing I ever did it to was a picture of a woman with red hair and a big red bush, and she had these huge tits, and she was holding a hockey mask for no reason. She wasn't wearing it; she was just holding it. But I wasn't turned on by her. I was just turned on by like how wrong that was. And I remember my mom like knocked on my door, and she's like, "Why is the door locked?" And I was like, "1 second." And I opened the toy box that I was just smashing myself on, and put the picture in and closed it. And I'm all red and sweaty. And she was like, "What are you doing in here?" I was like, "Nothing." And I was standing in front of the toy box. She's like, "What's in the toy box, Drew?" And I was like, "Nothing." And she goes, "I'll be back." And she shut the door and let me finish.
Isn't it always
so
so
innocent.
embarrassing? Like it's
so
always so
sweet.
embarrassing. Like the first.
I would
time.
hope it's embarrassing.
Yeah, getting caught, and Tyler's face is just total grimace right now because he's reliving his own demons in his own
still
mind.
thinking
Tyler,
about
just
B.
get over
Arthur.
it. We need to sell some bagels, so just
Who
let us
isn't
talk
thinking
about
B.
this
Arthur
stuff.
right now?
This is selling bagels, right?
Wait.
Everybody wants to. Okay, good.
Everyone, we're selling bagels. I'd like to close with anything that you all have to add or want to say, but I really appreciated your saying that sexuality is fluid because it really is, and I think that's part of why there's such a deeply rooted fear or misunderstanding of one's sexuality is because they feel as if they must be completely heterosexual or completely homosexual, and that's not the case. It's not the truth. It never will be. It never has been.
I would have sex with a woman if I didn't have to look or touch her.
There you go.
Open-mindedness!
Yay.
Special thanks to Dixie Lynn Cartwright and Tyler Greene for coming back on for a little bonus episode here with all of us at Awesomonster. Visit awesomonster.com for more details. And love you too.
Thanks for
Love
having
you.
me in your bagel shop.
Lovely.
The family biz.
Yes.